Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to I guess, the conclusion of our main series of Alien reviews. I will be talking about Prometheus in the next one. But, yeah, so the original quadrilogy wraps up with Alien Resurrection, which is another one of those ones that fans are very divided on. So let's talk about it today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. So, Alien Resurrection takes place about 200 years after the third one. Yeah, so we've jumped way forward in the future, which I guess means we got plenty of room in between to do a whole bunch of different movies and stories without interfering with what happens in Alien Resurrection. So, once again, I mean, we have a fantastic cast. They found actually a pretty clever way to have Sigourney Weaver come back, in that she's essentially a clone of the original Ripley. And a clone that also has a queen embryo. So somehow they've managed to clone not only her, but the queen embryo simultaneously, apparently from a blood sample that was taken from her back when she was on the prison planet. So, yeah, so we got Sigourney Weaver back. We got Brad Dourif in this one, who is an actor that I've always enjoyed ever since seeing him as Billy back in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Just a great character actor. And it was directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who is a wonderful director, who most of you will probably remember his absolute masterpiece that is Amelie. Just love Amelie. And he actually had one of his regular actors who he normally works with in a role in this, namely Dominique Perron as Vries. Not a French-speaking actor, or, well, character. Definitely a French-speaking actor. But he plays sort of the wheelchair-bound techie guy and such, and he's got kind of a quirky sense of humor and whatnot. Then we have Winona Ryder, who I've always adored and had a huge crush on ever since back when I first saw Beetlejuice. Young gothy Winona Ryder, gotta love it. But yeah, and Ron Perlman, another one, who's just amazing in everything and who's always a joy to see. I mean, he's a freaking chameleon. That man can play just about anything. I hear currently he's may or may not be in the running to play Cable in the Deadpool sequel, which would be awesome if that happens. I think he'd be fantastic as Cable. We've also got Gary Dourdan as Christie, who this is shortly before he started on CSI and sort of became really well known from that. A very striking actor, perhaps most remembered for his really piercing blue eyes. He has these amazing blue eyes. But really cool. We also have Michael Wincott as Elgin. Michael Wincott I always remembered from The Crow, where he was the big bad in The Crow. And sort of has this raspy, smoky voice. Just a very compelling actor. I think he did some soap operas back in the day. But plays great villains. I've always enjoyed his villain characters. Then we have Dan Hedaya, who is a character actor that I've always enjoyed as General Perez. The one role I most remember him from, I mean, he's been in a ton of stuff. You look at his IMDb page, it's one of those ones that just goes on for miles. The man's been in everything. But one of the roles I've always remembered him from was an early recurring character on NYPD Blue, where he played this crazy guy who thought he was a werewolf. Just really fun character actor. Always plays interesting kind of, kooky characters. But yeah, so again, much like all the Alien movies thus far, we have a fantastic cast and a fantastic director. I mean, a true auteur director in the pilot's seat, as it were. And then we've got a script by none other than Joss Whedon himself. So you can expect that it's going to be tinged with a little bit of quirky humor and such, as is kind of Joss's style, and something we've come to expect from his scripts, and this one is certainly no exception. So, as I mentioned, we have Sigourney Weaver back as Ripley, and basically as a clone of the original Ripley, but she's got certain aspects of her personality that she's inherited from the alien DNA as well. Now, I should mention the version that I usually watch of this is the special edition version, simply because the special edition version has a few little additions that I feel add to the overall experience. The one thing I'm kind of divided on is they have an alternate opening sequence that originally only existed in storyboard form, but they got the green light to realize the entire intro for this special edition. And basically, what it is you see what appears to be the close-up of the close-up of the jaws of an alien in very dated CG, and then it slowly pulls out, and we see it's actually like a fly kind of thing. And a guy squishes the fly and then puts it on the end of his straw. He's drinking a drink, and then he blows in the straw, and the splat goes onto the window, and then that's when the title comes up. And then the whole time, the camera is slowly pulling back to reveal the full expansiveness of the space station that will be the main setting for the story. Now, in the original theatrical version, we had sort of this surreal montage of earlier attempts to clone Ripley. Now, in this case, not seeing that montage, we have no idea that's coming. So when that scene finally happens and Ripley discovers her clones in the previous clones in the movie, it's that much more of a shock and a surprise because we've had no setup for that. All we know is that she's the eighth one, the eighth attempt, and who knows what happened with the previous 7. So basically, the scientists and the general who run this space station have an arrangement with this group of mercenaries slash pirates. I don't know what you want to call them. Space mercenaries, basically, just work for hire kind of crew, and that's where most of our rough and tumble characters, kind of Ron Perlman and all of them. And Winona Ryder is in with them. So basically what this crew does is they look for ships that are on deep space missions where the crew is all in hypersleep, and they steal the hypersleep chambers and bring them back to this space station for the scientists to do their alien experiments on. So essentially they take the people out of the hypersleep chambers, put them in this chamber, restrained with a facehugger egg in front of them, and impregnate them with the alien embryos against their will. So there's a rather horrifying scene where there's a whole row of about 8 of them, and they're all watching and waiting, and like the scientists are watching and waiting, and then one of the people wakes up and sees the alien egg and just starts screaming, and then it cuts away. We know what's going on there. These are not nice scientists. It's basically the same thing again. They're doing experiments on the aliens, trying to train them, trying to use them as some kind of biological weapon, while at the same time studying them and learning about them and such. So there's a lot of shady goings on in this. Now at this point, it's not Weyland-Yutani anymore. Weyland-Yutani, there's a line in the special edition that explains what happens to them. Weyland-Yutani was basically bought out by Walmart. And then, this is just kind of some independent military organization, I guess. But so things kind of go south when Brad Dourif, who's the lead scientist, is experimenting, doing behavior experiments with this one particular alien. There's a room there's a whole series of canisters full of aliens, and he kind of swings the lab over to one and attaches to it, and there's a viewing window, and there's 3 aliens in there, and one of them comes up to the glass and makes like he's going to attack him. So he hits this big red button and gasses the alien, just basically blasts it with it. I thought it was steam at first, but apparently it's really cold. It's this cold steam. So, I don't know, what's that really cold stuff? Not hydrogen peroxide, it's that other stuff that they use to freeze warts. The name eludes me. They use it to freeze warts and to keep really hot supercomputer components cool. Maybe it'll come back to me. Anyway, and if it doesn't by the end of this video, tell me in the comments, because I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so he does this experiment, and then so he blasts the alien, and it goes to lunge to attack him again, and he just puts his hand over the button, and the alien stops. And he's like, so you're a fast learner. So he's thinking that these aliens can be trained, behavioral training. So what ends up happening is two of the aliens kind of confer with each other and the third one. And the third one starts to kind of freak out and starts to scream and squeal and screech. And then the other two aliens attack it and just, like, annihilate it. So that, of course, they know their acid is blood. They are smart creatures. So they use the blood of the third alien to burn a hole through the floor and escape. And then Brad Dourif goes in and investigates and sees what happened. And I don't think he's there for it, but he sees it after the fact, goes to see what happens, and he gets captured by the aliens or killed. We don't know. So anyway, long and the short of it is things go south. The mercenary crew ends up being double-crossed by the guys on the station, and they're very well armed. They're very seasoned. These are some of them are even military veterans. These guys know how to survive in a difficult situation. So now they got the guys on the station out to get them, and they got aliens on the loose too. So yeah, I remember when this came out, a friend of mine basically gave me his thoughts on it, because I was excited that there was a new Alien movie coming out, but at the same time I was kind of cautiously optimistic just because of how disappointed I was with the third one. And I asked him, I said, so how was it? Like, was it good? Is it bad? Is it better than the third one? Is it worse than the third one? Dare I hope they blow off the third one as a bad dream in hypersleep? And he says, no, the third one is still, acknowledged it's not a bad dream. I'm like, damn it. And he said, well, how can I put this? Basically, it was really good up until the point where it started sucking. I'm like, okay. And he said, just go and see it. You'll see what I mean. So I did go to see it in the theater. I think, when did that come out? It was 1997. Yeah, I think I was back living with my mom for a bit, actually. Times were tough. I had dropped out of university and had no money and no prospects at the time. So went back to live with Mumsy for about a year just to kind of get back on my feet. And, and then eventually moved out here when I got some opportunities here, and the rest, as they say, is history. But, so we went to go see it. And I remember, as I was watching, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I'm kind of digging this. It's different, but seems to be, they've actually got some interesting things going on here. And I like these characters, I like this cast, and, the look of it's good, the design of the aliens is good. And then there was one distinct point where it started sucking. And at the time, what that point was the moment that Winona Ryder is revealed to be an android. And then from that point on, it just seemed to go rapidly downhill. And in re-watching it a couple times since, I don't know that that's specifically the point, but there are a few cringe-inducing moments shortly after that, such as when they're talking about how they, she can't interface with the ship's computer anymore because they, during the Android Revolution, they burned their modems. I'm like, really? Burned their modems? Come on. Like, even with Joss Whedon cheesiness, that's a little overly cheesy, I think. And then she still manages to interface with the computer anyway by just, jamming some wires into her arm. But honestly, looking at it again now, I don't have a problem with her being an android. If anything, it means that she can help out a little bit more than she can on those. I do really like that line that when she's talking with Ripley, and Ripley's kind of asking her about what her background is, and Ripley says, and she's talking about her new sort of behavioral programming, and Ripley just says, "What? So you're the new asshole model that they have now?" I liked that aspect of it, that she's programmed to be an asshole. But yeah, there are, overall, I actually like Alien Resurrection more than Alien 3. I know I'm probably going to get strung up for that, but I honestly think there's a lot more to like about it. I mean, they were actually trying to build on the mythology and to add something to the story, whereas the third one just seemed like an unnecessary detour. Now, for me, the moment where it really starts sucking is the climax of the movie, essentially, when they go down to Ripley gets pulled into the alien nest, and we see the new queen with her massive womb. And and Brad Dourif is like, this is your gift to her. You got some of her killer instinct and invulnerability, partially acidic blood, and she got a human womb. And like, wow, that's some fast evolution there, man. Going from an egg-laying species to a natural birth species. But then again, I mean, the alien in previous movies has been established to be very adaptable and very quick to adapt. And if you take the life cycle process of the first movie, director's cut, as canon, there's multiple life cycles for the alien depending on what its living situation is. Now, in that case, in the first one, it was a sole alien. It had to survive, had to perpetuate the species, so it would morphed the or transmogrified some of its victims into eggs and others into hosts for the facehuggers. The second one, of course, we had the queen laying eggs. For the fourth one, we have the queen laying eggs. The third one was just, a couple of eggs that mysteriously appeared on the ship. Yeah, I didn't really touch on that when I did the third one, did I? Yeah, how did those eggs get there exactly? Like, when would the queen have had time to put eggs there? The only other thing I can think of is maybe there was some kind of, just going back to the third one for a second here, if maybe Bishop had some kind of subroutine to retrieve a couple of eggs and bring them back with him, but I don't buy that. I don't like the idea of Bishop secretly having an evil bit of programming in there, because Bishop was just such a nice guy. But if you go and watch Luke Ryan's review of Alien 3, actually, he just did sort of a short, like 9-minute, overview of it. Right at the tail end of that, he gives his theory as to where the eggs came from. And I think it is a very sound and well thought out theory that makes a lot of sense. So go and check that out. In fact, I'll include a link to that in the description if you want to check out his review there. Yeah, the other theory is that it was one facehugger that was somehow able to lay two embryos, one in Ripley and one in the dog or ox, depending which version you watch. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Whatever it was, that I consider that a bit of a huge plot hole that just kicked that movie off right off the bat. And, yeah, anyway, enough about Alien 3. Alien Resurrection. So, the biggest problem I have with Alien Resurrection, I'm not going to bother summarizing the rest of the plot. Needless to say, things go south. They get chased by a lot of aliens. There's some fun little set pieces and chase scenes. A few people get killed. A few people survive. And there you go. The ending is different also, by the way, between the theatrical and the special edition. I actually prefer the special edition version. In the theatrical version, they make it back to Earth. Earth is basically a shithole by this point. It's been abandoned. Everybody's living in off-world colonies and such. It's just been trashed. Years of pollution and neglect. And the theatrical version ends with them making it to Earth and Sigourney Weaver and Winona Ryder looking out the viewport at Earth down below. Well, in the special edition version, they actually land. They actually land on Earth and walk out onto its surface and have some dialogue there at the end. And I actually prefer that ending. I think it's just it fleshes it out a little bit more, and and then we see definitively who survives, and. Yeah, so that's kind of nice. So anyway, back to the things I hate about it. Honestly, overall, up to that point, I really didn't have very many problems with it. As you can probably tell, I find there's definitely, the humor is definitely more apparent in this than it was in previous ones, but I don't think it's over the top. It's more just kind of, dark humor. It's, again, just a freaking great cast. It's always a joy to watch, even in the crappiest of movies. But the biggest issue I had with it was at the very end, when we have, the queen with her womb, and she gives birth to the human-alien hybrid. And this gets into my biggest issue of all with the film, which was the design. I think the design of the ship and everything was fine. The look of the aliens was fine. I mean, it was fairly straightforward, typical aliens, much like we'd seen in the second one. Really not much had changed there. But I can't even talk. It just irritates me so much. The design of the alien hybrid and just the concept of it in general, I think, is so poor, and just such a terrible ending to what could have been a decent Alien movie, and I think it really ruins it. And I think that's one of the reasons people hate it so much, is because that's the climax, and it ruins the frickin' movie. So The biggest problem I had with it was the face designer. They made it look too like almost like a human skull on the front, like a human skull made out of flesh and such, and it just looked weird and it was off-putting, and not in a Giger-esque, disturbing, down to your soul kind of way. It was just off-putting because it looked so shitty. But and then just like with the aliens, in terms of the behavior, the aliens, there's a cunning there. You sense that there's intent, there's premeditation, pre-planning. Aliens never do anything without a purpose. It's either to survive or to eat or to propagate the species or to defend themselves or what have you. This alien hybrid creature was just blindly attacking anything that moved. And it was just vicious and unpredictable. And I found that really irritating about it. Like, to me, it did not make it an interesting creature. It just made it this blindly vicious, aggressive creature that could not be reasoned with or dealt with. The thing that's interesting about the aliens is their behavior, and the fact that depending on what you do, depending on what the circumstances are, their behavior changes to adapt. But it's very reactionary to what's going on. In this case, the alien hybrid was just attacking anything that came anywhere near it, and there was no thought or reason there. Now, one might argue, like, well, that's because it was newborn, it didn't know what it was doing. Well, you know what? Go back and look at the first movie. Look at the chest burster. It pops out of Kane's chest, and it immediately looks at every single one of them. So it's like it's already looking and assessing and processing and thinking, and then it takes off to continue growing before it presses its attack later. But, they're born smart. So don't give me this, it was a newborn, then therefore dumb explanation, because I ain't buying it. And then to further get into the design that bugged me, I know some people say that scene where Ripley discovers the previous 7 clones is so disturbing and so chilling. It should have been more so. I think, and I thought this at the time when I was watching in the theater, looking at those creature designs of the first 7 clones, there didn't seem to be any logic to them. They weren't disturbing in the ways that I feel they should have been. And I think their biggest misstep on this was giving Giger the shaft. You may not be aware of this, but when it was originally released theatrically, H.R. Giger received no credit for the original Alien design. That's a big no-no. That is a big freaking no-no. Like, I don't care if he's directly involved in that film or not. You credit him. Every other franchise you look at, even if the original creator had nothing to do with that particular sequel, they still get some kind of acknowledgement for being the creator of it. And Alien Resurrection, they gave no acknowledgement to H.R. Giger. Now, in all the home video releases, they've since added an acknowledgement at the end. At the end. Like, as an afterthought. But that was not until Giger basically took Fox to court over it and won, because they refused to give him credit. Which was bullshit. So, A, he should have got credit. And B, he should have been involved in the project, for God's sake. Like, can you imagine how much more disturbing those clone creatures would have been if they had been designed by Giger? So instead what we got were Giger wannabe designs. Giger wannabe designs who don't understand the way Giger's thought process works, the way his art functions. So we had the embryo creature was basically just a gigantic fetus with an alien tail. Okay, cool. We had like another one that was kind of a human body with an alien face. Then there was another one which was just so bizarre, which was like the teeth were out the side of the face, and then there's all this wild hair, and then kind of a body, and then a bit of alien scaling and stuff. It was Giger wannabe stuff, man. And Sigourney Weaver really tried to sell it, because she's an amazing actress. I mean, her reaction's perfect. They would have been exactly the same regardless of that design, because she's a fantastic actress. Act upset and disturbed. Got it. I'm on it. But I was so disappointed with it. And then we get to that final one, the one that's still alive, and there's, again, no logic to the design. Now, even in nature, there is a logic. I mean, yes, this is them tampering with nature, but there should still be some kind of inherent logic. There should be some kind of pattern to the design. But one did not seem to be a natural progression of the other. That was a problem. The designs themselves did not seem to have any coherence to them. It was just like random things. Oh, we'll do this because it'll be kind of disturbing. It's like, no. Giger did not do things because he thought they would be disturbing. He did things because that was the correct form for the creature that he was creating. There was always a purpose to every piece of that form. These creatures were purposeless. They were there to shock and disturb, and that's it. And little, if any, thought actually went into the logical progression between the 7 creatures. We get to the last one. I mean, what the hell is that? Like, her arm is glued to itself, and she's all, bloated and skinny in some parts, and it's just so random. I don't know. One might argue that, well, that's because the stupid scientists didn't know what they were doing, so they messed it up constantly. That's why there's no rhyme or reason. Yeah, but you know what? Still, I'm not buying that either. I think it was a huge misstep to not have Giger involved, because all I could think of was like, wow, this is kind of interesting, but I like the idea here, but this should have been Giger's work. Like, it would have been so much more disturbing on, like, right down to your freaking soul, man. Like, big wasted opportunity there. So, overall, honestly, I enjoy Alien Resurrection. It's just when it gets to that last 20 minutes, it just loses me, and I'm so disappointed. But then we get that lovely ending on Earth, and that's fine. But the whole thing with the hybrid alien and the Ripley clones, I think, was really a missed opportunity, and they had inadequate design for them, and that's pretty much it. Also, the music score, I don't even know who did the music in this. Does it even say? No, it doesn't say on here, of course. But I don't even remember who did the music, and I don't even care, because it was so unremarkable and unmemorable. I think there's a few cues taken from the original Alien in there, but it was, the Alien 3, I think, was the last great Alien score, even if it wasn't a great movie. And that's that. So, yeah. Anyway, Alien Resurrection. There you go. Take it or leave it. I recommend checking out the special edition if you haven't already. There's some other good little added bits in there, just character moments, a little bit of added dialogue, and there's a scene where they're actually near the beginning where they're extracting the queen embryo from Ripley, where she actually breaks the surgeon's hand at one point. I like that because it sets up her strength and her viciousness and such. And I actually liked the Ripley clone. I liked that there was, she had aspects of memory from her former real self, but at the same time she was like the same but different, and I like that. So yeah. Anyway, just my opinion. I know a lot of people feel exactly the opposite and dislike this one the most and love Alien 3 or prefer Alien 3 as far as the 2 lesser sequels go. Some people, Alien 3 is their favorite one because it's the first one they saw or what have you. I mean, it's very subjective. I mean, I think in terms of films, the first 2 are hands down the best. They have the best structure, they have the best stories, they have the best character development, and the scariest scares, the best suspense and sheer terror. But then the third one is a big detour. The fourth one kind of gets things back on track, but so far in the future that it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Alien Covenant, which is the sequel to Prometheus. It looks like that one's going to get the series back on track, hopefully. And I also really hope we get that Neil Blomkamp one as well that's been teased for a while. Those lovely pre-production photos that came out. This would be the sequel that takes place after Aliens and ignores the events of Alien 3 and 4, so just kind of goes off in its own direction. Hey, give me some alternate timelines, man. Let's see what could have been. So, yeah, I'm all over that. I hope it happens. Anyway, that is it for this one. What should we have? Wow, we're running low on chocolate bars here. I have to do a refill soon. Let's see, what do we got? What do we got here? I don't know. Yeah. Alright. We'll do a Mr. Big, because Boy, mister, that alien queen's womb was big. Alright, special thanks to my Patreon sponsors, especially my highest level sponsor, Kyle Pellegrini. Really appreciate the support, dude. And thanks to all of you for watching and enjoying. And I'll see you next time. Until then, sayonara. Ah! Off me. Stop trying to touch me.